The next episode for us to cover is perhaps the most interesting, most thought-provoking episode of the season so far. One that I liked a lot, from a lore perspective at least. The story of it wasn't particularly engaging aside from what it contributed to the lore. But either way, Meteora's lesson is a really solid episode that I think does a lot for the story of this show. It sets up a lot of intriguing stuff and alters the way that fans are going to look at the lore of the series going forward forever, really. It opens on Eclipsa brushing up on her pigeon as she is going to meet with the rich pigeons in an attempt to win them back over to her side and reform the alliance between them and the Kingdom of Muni, which is nice. It's a nice nod to the fact that Eclipsa is still working to repair those relationships. We don't need to see every single one. We already saw one. We already saw how she handled the one. We don't need to see the rest. It's good, though, to know that it is still going on in the background. Since she's going there, though, it necessitates that she leave Meteora with a babysitter, which is why Jennah is here, which is an odd choice, because while I love Jennah, I would not leave her alone with a child. That just seems reckless. Though, to be fair, Jennah does babysit Meteora like any teenager babysits any child, by hopping immediately on her phone. This, though, gives Glossaryck time to come and collect Meteora to take her off on a lesson, which he implies has something to do with the fact that one of his arms is in a cast and a sling. It also involves time travel, as he takes her to see Father Time, who isn't around for some reason, which means they have to go and book passage with Glossaryck's son, Rhianaldo. I already made a Ronaldo from Steven Universe joke about this character in another video, so I'm not even going to bother making it here. Mostly because I actually end up liking this character. I think he's pretty cool. What this episode primarily ends up being from this point onward is a character study of Glossaryck, of all people. We see him interact with his son, who was originally a member of the Magical High Commission. All of the Magical High Commission members are his children. He created all of them. But who was, I guess, based on some of the comments you guys left on that other video that I mentioned, was cursed to only speak in rhymes and riddles, and was therefore cut from the commission because people didn't like him anymore, or something. It was something along those lines. I could be wrong. I guess they talk about it in the Book of Spells, which I am getting around to reading, I promise. But the point is, this is Glossaryck's son, and while Glossaryck does really well with Meteora, he seems to really like babies. He's a lot like my dad in that he doesn't get along with his adult children. Hit a little close to home there, Star Writers. Thanks a lot for that. Because Glossaryck he can't stand Rhianaldo. Despite the fact that I didn't really find Rhianaldo's riddle-talking quirk to be all that intrusive, and it doesn't seem like he has to do it all the time, just every once in a while, I guess to appease the curse. Because he does say straight up, "Goodbye, Dad," and doesn't seem to rhyme it with anything around it, at least not that I can recall. Point is, Rhianaldo takes them back in time to a specific point, or at least he tries to, and he initially fails. They end up going back a little too far, and this is where the lore stuff in the episode gets really interesting. It's also worth noting up to this point that so far the only lesson that Glossaryck has been trying to teach Meteora is the principles behind dipping down, which is interesting because Glossaryck himself is about to do so in just a couple of minutes. They end up back in time to the point and the place where the first humans arrive by boat at Muni, which is particularly interesting because they didn't just sail through water. They seem to sail through some mix of regular ocean water and water from the realm of magic. They seem, based on the fauna in the area, to have come up around the place where the temple, I can't remember what it's called, the Glossaryck-shaped temple that seems to access that water from the realm of magic is placed now, and they're covered in the stuff. Which makes me think they probably came up through whatever dimensional rift is the source of that water in the Glossaryck-shaped temple. But because they're covered in the stuff, they don't know who they are, where they came from, where they are, or what they're doing. So Glossaryck dips down into the realm of magic waters that are mixed with the ocean water, and he pulls out a mill horse, and he tosses it into Meteora's rattle, and hands it to a young girl who's with this group, and creates the wand and the butterfly family dynasty all at once. He also mentions the name Muni, and then directs them to take shelter under the stump from Stump Day, which solidifies pretty handily that those people would not have survived if Glossaryck had not been here and done all these things at this point in time. Therefore, this was always supposed to happen. This was always the way that things originally happened, and Glossaryck is involved in a predestination paradox. That's the one that theorizes that if time travel is possible and time travelers go back in time, they will end up setting in motion events as they already happened rather than changing things. And it's really interesting because Glossaryck is supposed to have, like, out-of-time knowledge. He's supposed to effectively know everything, right? He also can apparently crap out time travelers, since he made one pretty casually. So he does, in effect, have time travel abilities, and he's also this chess master type. It makes me wonder why he would allow events to be set in motion for Muni to exist as it exists now, as a society that oppressed so many people. And the only reason I can think of why he would do that is if the thing that he is manipulating events towards in the present are so much better than what would have come if he hadn't set everything in motion the way that he did, and that all of this was necessary for things to end up the way they need to end up. Because the narrative does structure this scene as if things needed to happen this way for them to happen at all. I would have, at the very least, mentioned, hey, don't be horribly oppressive towards the monsters who already live here once you get set up. But whatever. Glossaryck's not technically a good guy. He's more a true neutral chess master type. So it probably didn't cross his mind, and I can't blame him for that, I guess. Wouldn't want him to act against alignment. And I could talk about this scene for a very long time, and I already kind of did. I mentioned another video on this topic earlier. I'll put a little link thingy up here. In case you guys missed it, I did a commentary and analysis of this episode. I recorded myself doing my note-taking for this review while rewatching the episode. And I talk about this scene a lot there and offer some ideas that I feel like if I dwelled on them too long in this review, it would bog the video down. So head over there to check that out if you're interested. Point is, Glossaryck is far more involved in events than we originally thought, and that's super interesting. And it becomes, I think, a little more interesting even when he goes forward a little bit more to the time he was actually trying to get to and encounters Toffee, who is the person who broke his arm, which suggests that he already came back to this point in time at some point recently to get his arm broken so that he could use it to motivate Meteora to attack Toffee, which she does, because apparently her lesson didn't just involve learning the principles behind dipping down, it also involved learning to tap into her soul-sucking magic again. Except maybe it wasn't, because Glossaryck also suggests here that he was trying to teach Toffee a lesson, which suggests that he brought Meteora back here to use magic on Toffee to inspire Toffee and ensure that he made his play against the throne that he eventually makes, leading to the near apocalypse which happened in the events of this series. Like, this episode is just, it's a real mind blower. But despite that, despite the fact that it does reshape and recontextualize so much of the lore of this series, it is also, as I said before, a pretty effective character study of Glossaryck. You learn a lot about him, not all good and not all bad. Like, he may not have done anything to try to ensure that the humans didn't oppress monsters, but he did take the time to help Meteora develop her magical powers early, most likely because, being half monster, she'll have more trouble handling the wand once she comes of age than a regular human would, which is something that you guys pointed out in the comments of that other video. Thank you very much, because I hadn't thought of that. So it's not like he doesn't care about anything, he makes odd choices regarding what to care about. I can't pin down this guy's character well at all, and that's really interesting to me, honestly. Like, I had a comment on one of my videos recently saying something to the effect of Star Versus being a show which sets things up very well but doesn't pay them off. all that well. And while I kind of agree that has happened a couple of times before, I really don't get the sense, like some people seem to be getting, that all of this setup, all of this build-up this season isn't going to amount to something. I really do feel like it's all leading somewhere, and I feel like this episode is working overtime to make sure that it actually gets where it's going. As per usual, though, I'd like to know, what do you guys think of Meteora's lesson, if you have seen it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over in my Discord, link in the description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.